I'm in San Francisco now, near the coworking place called Some Accentro. And Vladimir is about to get me in. This is quite a busy place in here. Sunny morning. Oh, hello, Vladimir.
Come on.
So that's your working place?
Yes, it's co-working that I'm renting. I tried to work from home, but it was rather inefficient. That's why I decided to pay a bit of money and to get a place in a co-working so that I'll be able to work here 24/7. Among other people, right now the office is empty Monday morning and folks typically come slightly later. So yeah, it's my computer there in the middle.
Is that your working place?
Yeah, it's
Let's
my
go check it.
workplace.
You have
So
some
yeah,
stuff here,
I
right?
have laptop, I have desktop. You may see that it has like a few GPUs hanging around. I mounted this computer myself. So yeah, this is my workplace. We have kitchen there.
Oh, can you show the kitchen? And what's the place? I understand that there are some other startups are in here, right?
So this is co-working. That's why people work here, come and go. We had, so I don't remember the name of the startup. They worked in that office behind the doors, but then I believe they were growing fast and they moved to another place, maybe rented their own office. But typically, if you're a small startup, I mean, it's either one person or maybe a few folks, it's a good place to be. It's, you see, on one side, it's rather empty, so it's not as crowded as it is in the office of big company like Facebook, Lyft, or Facebook, or like Google, or etc.
And it does look quite cozy, to be honest.
I mean, it's cozy. It has its startup-ish garage type atmosphere, which I love. So I was thinking about going and working from WeWork, but first of all, I prefer to have my own desk, my own desktop, and in WeWork, it's either expensive or you just like come and work with your laptop, which is not comfortable for me because I work with images and
Yeah, I need a big screen.
I would prefer big screen, yeah.
Yeah. Can you show me around?
Okay, let's walk around. So on the right, it's in the list of the companies that affiliated, although affiliated probably is not the best word. At some point of time, as I was told, founders of these companies worked, I think, in this co-working or second one, which also belongs to the same owner. It's also in San Francisco. I don't know when it was, but probably like some time ago. And you may recognize some names like
Yeah.
NC, Instagram.
Instacart. Grammarly, I'm using Grammarly.
So yeah, you see I'm using Grammarly, I used Instacart, I'm using Instagram, I use Stack Overflow, of course, I use Nginx, I use Firebase. So
Lots of useful stuff, huh?
yeah, so sure, maybe we get this energy here, and hopefully for some of us it will also work as well to develop something.
Is the kitchen good?
Let's go there and check it out. So yeah, not very crowded. There is one guy, or like a few guys, sitting there. It was extremely crowded last week because one of the startups hosted conference there in the basement. I think it's like a big room there. But right now it's rather empty. So yeah, sure, kitchen, which is also one of the main places here in this co-working because we do work. But it's rather common that you come here to drink a cup of tea or maybe have a lunch. And then some other folks come, you talk, introduce each other, and then maybe, I mean, common question is, what are you working on?
Yeah.
And then that's how it starts. So we also spend here a decent amount of time. I would prefer if instead of this like green panels on the walls, they had whiteboards.
True, you immediately can brainstorm something.
I love how in graduate school here we have blackboards everywhere in all corridors, in all classrooms. So that you're like walking somewhere and then you got some idea, you can stop by, turn left and then take chalk and start drawing. This I maybe, if when I'll have some bigger company and we have our own office, we will not have any like beautiful images or anything like this, like pictures on the walls, it all will be whiteboards.
Yeah, you can make the whole wall as a whiteboard.
Everything will be whiteboards.
Cool, cool.
So yeah, that's it. That's where I work and spend most of the time. And again, it kind of, this flow reminds me graduate school. In graduate school, I rented cheap room because I was coming there only to sleep. You wake up, you go to university, you have office there, and then you come home at 10 p.m. and then just go to bed and like repeat this all over again. And here it's kind of similar to me, and it was very productive time. When I worked for these startups, it was slightly different. You go to job, and then you know that you need to work for 8 hours, and then you're trying, no, I will not stay there for longer because what's the point? Especially because you were not allowed to have your own personal projects from the company's hardware. And in this sense, you come home, and I was more interested in having slightly bigger and more comfortable place at home. But right now, I'm more invested in terms of like having more comfortable place at work.
Yeah. What were your studies?
I was studying theoretical physics for my master's in Russia. I was doing high energy physics, and for PhD here, it was condensed matter physics.
You must be smart.
I hope so. That's what my mother says.
Your kitchen in the co-working place made me hungry, so now we are going to a breakfast.
Yeah, let's go and have a breakfast. So, in some sense, situation with breakfast is not as good as, let's say, in Russia, in St. Petersburg or Moscow. You get used that on every intersection you have some kind of nice restaurants, but here it's rather sparse. There are some districts in San Francisco that are full of restaurants of all types, like Italian, Mexican, Indian, anything you want. But this neighborhood is rather empty. And there's another thing, there was like a nice restaurant nearby, and I wanted to show it to Maria, but it was closed. And owners wrote a note on the door that says that before the pandemic, they were doing rather well, but during pandemic, they somehow survived, and it was hard. And after the pandemic, after the quarantine was lifted up, they were not able to recover. So maybe it's also the fate for other restaurants, because the rent is extremely expensive, and many people shifted to ordering food, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub.
Yeah, Instacart itself.
Instacart was extremely useful, used it a lot during the pandemic. But Instacart is slightly another vertical. So right now we're going to the restaurant. I like having breakfast there. I loved coffee there till the moment when I stopped drinking coffee and tea and everything at all.
Why so?
There's another vibe that we can discuss. In Silicon Valley, it's very popular. I mean, people are young, they like experiments, and they care about their health. And many of them come from technical backgrounds. That's why they prefer measure something with numbers rather than some abstract like well-being, feeling well, and other unmeasurable things.
Obsessed with own statistics.
Yeah, so people use a lot of wearable devices, take some pills. For example, it's rather common. People go every 6 months to the doctor, they measure a whole set of different biomarkers, I don't know, cholesterol, testosterone, and like another 100 of them, see which of them are not like in the proper zone, and use some pills or change in their well-being, etc., etc.
So it's like maximizing your performance to the...
Yeah, by doing it in slightly more scientific way. And there are different ways to do it, like improve your sleep, improve your diet, do some surgeries, or like maybe
Are you doing all of them?
Of course not. I try to optimize sleep, and for this I have this Oura ring. I believe it's like made in Finland, rather popular here. Also, I think it's popular in Russia, and it helps to measure how well do you sleep. And I made a number of experiments. I read books about improving your sleeping abilities. And somehow it ended up that if you cut off caffeine at all, including decaf coffee, including tea, green, black, everything, and then you try to wake up roughly at the same time, magic happens, your sleep efficiency improves.
Do you feel yourself better?
Yes and no. So on one side, I feel better overall. I feel more calm. Things even stressful are not a big deal. Overall, it feels better. But I don't get these spikes, you know? When you have some caffeine, for some time after this, you feel like a super animal. you're powerful, you can do everything, you can focus on things. These feelings you don't get, so you need to learn how to be productive in a more calm mode.
Okay. Interesting, but then you can last longer probably, right?
For sure. So with caffeine, my productive part of the day was about probably 6 hours a day. The rest was filled with reading like books, relevant books, but still. But being really sharp, at most 6 hours. Right now it's 10, sometimes 12.
Okay, that's quite a lot.
Yeah, it's more than I had like when I was working in the industry. Okay, I'm turning right here. And this is San Francisco railway station.
Yeah. So tell me, you're doing startup. Why are you doing startup?
This is a good question. Because I can, because everyone else around doing this, and because I don't have any better idea.
Why not working in the industry? Have you tried?
I worked in couple startups and then in the company called Live doing self-driving for the past 7 years. It was great experience, but also, and I learned a lot. Even I changed my identity when I came, like about whatever, 7 or 8 years ago when I graduated. I felt like a scientist, and my identity was a scientist.
True, with a PhD in theoretical physics.
It's more about your mindset, how you approach what is important to you, what time scales, how things should work. Right now, probably I shifted, I became an engineer. I refuse to do this change a lot, but somehow I hope it's not like just engineer, like software engineer, but it's a merge of scientist and software engineer. But still, yeah, it changed me a lot as a person, improved my skills. When I was in graduate school, we needed to publish 3 first author papers a year to graduate, things like this, maybe for postdocs like 2-3. Right now I can probably publish 10 a year, and it's not just like, I mean, it may sound that I'm bragging, but if you look at my Google Scholar, you can see that in graduate school I had like 3 papers, and then after this I had 20.
Well, how come?
First of all, I started publishing in the field of machine learning, and it's because it's a new field, it's drastically easier.
Okay.
And second, you may do many things significantly faster. And there's like guy called Peter Thiel. He was founder of PayPal, and right now pretty famous in Silicon Valley, like great venture capitalist. And one of the questions he likes to ask is, I think it's him, think about something that you want to achieve like in 5 years, and person like gives an answer, and then he has a follow-up question. What prevents you from doing it in the next 6 months? So I believe with academic papers, it's exactly the same. It's like so many things could be optimized. That, yeah, in this sense, yeah. It's actually one of the questions why I don't want to go back to academia, because I understand how it works, I understand how to publish papers, and it doesn't sound as exciting as it was before.
No longer challenge for you.
Papers, no. Science, yes. I mean, of course, doing good science is challenging, but there comes another question. You need money. You need time, you need funding, you don't need to be constrained by teaching responsibilities if you don't want it. You would like to choose where you work, what you work on. So in this sense, I like the example of Elon Musk. First, he had 2 startups in which he learned how to do startups and made some money, and then
He actually started to do something meaningful.
started something he's excited about.
Yeah.
PayPal was also meaningful
Well, okay, meaningful, but
to him.
yes, but in line with own passion.
Exactly, yes. So
Yeah.
first, by the way, there is a good book about this called Be So Good They Can't Ignore You. And main premise of the book, first, you learn your skills, get connections, make money, and ignore your passion to some extent. And then, more experience, skillful, resourceful you become, more choices you do. So for me, I mean, I don't want to go back to academia. I don't want going to some big company and work there. I may go to some small startup, but if you go to your small startup, it's probably like more interesting to learn how to do it yourself. And because I'm less constrained by money, I can afford it.
What do you mean you're less constrained by money? Did you get an investment or?
So no, my startup is its really early stages. So it's not in such a good shape to go for good investment. At the same time, Silicon Valley, good engineers are paid a lot. So after working for 7 years, I saved money for like another 17 years for myself. If I'll start hiring, story will be different.
Of course.
But right now it gives me some time for more experiments, more thinking.
So you earned enough money to live for quite some years without salary at all. So you're able to focus on your startup. So you want to learn to be an effective entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's correct. Effective is a questionable word. You can be extremely effective, but extremely unsuccessful.
Okay, you want to learn it.
So for me, it's not about money at this stage, it's about knowledge. It's such a complex, unstructured thing. These days, I believe it could be easier to do startups than it was, let's say, 20 years ago. Sure, competition is easier, but infrastructure and understanding of the story, literature, community, all this in favor of entrepreneurs, maybe that's another reason why it's a good idea to do it now rather than wait for another 10 years.
Yeah, wait a second, I cannot reconcile it in my mind. So you don't have investor, you don't have a boss, you have enough money to do nothing, and you're still going to work every morning, 5 days a week, and work for what, 12 hours? Well, how come?
Probably main reason we don't value something that we can have. So I remember when I was a poor student, or maybe when I started working in the industry, I was thinking about, okay, let me get enough money for retirement, and that's it. And life is great. You go, drink, chill, have sex, enjoy, go to raves, read books, do whatever you want.
Read books? It's falling out the list a bit.
I mean, I love reading books.
Okay.
So, and it looked like important. Right now I can do it. I can go to Thailand, to Bali, and just retire and do this for the rest of my life.
I have a couple of friends who are doing this thing.
I have a few friends that are doing this as well. And I still can do it. So it's one of the reasons I didn't cut this opportunity off completely. Second, it doesn't sound that exciting. You see, life is full of problems. If you don't have enough proper problems, life becomes extremely boring. And for me at this stage, trying to learn how to build startups, it's a good problem to have. Something that occupies my mind, something that I'm thinking in the morning while taking a shower. And this is exciting. I wouldn't say that I have mission in my life and I'm dedicated fully to it. Sounds like too strong. But it's more about a good challenge, long-term challenge, long-term like learning something. So yeah, that's what I believe. Or maybe I'm just finding some reasons for these excuses why I'm not in Bali or Thailand.
Well, it doesn't matter actually, as long as it keeps you going.
Yeah, it definitely keeps me going. And also Silicon Valley is a rather unique place. I could go again to Bali and work on my startup there, for sure, exactly the same. But here, all the environment, all the community, all people, information around you, when you hear that some of your friends raised money here and there, some other friend just finished like going through YC, Y Combinator, someone else just like his startup didn't work, he needed to close it. You feel this vibe, you feel this bubble, and you feel that there's a life in it. And you don't want the life to pass by. So yeah.
Okay, too calm on Bali.
What?
Too calm on Bali for
I've
you.
never been there, but I assume so.
Okay. You mentioned your early stage startup, and it's too early for investments. I assume there are some challenges in there, right?
Yes.
Okay. Out of 100% of a startup, how much of that is a challenge?
One more time, what's the question?
Okay. Let's try to break down the pie of a startup experience. How much of it is a challenge and failure and misery, and how much of it is fun?
You can't distinguish. It's all fun. You see, if something works, you get dopamine boost and fun because it works. If something doesn't work, it's even more exciting because you learn something. You assume it's a great, brilliant idea. It will work out. Everyone get excited. and then no one cares. It's learning experience. You get this knowledge, and it's unique and valuable, I would say. That's why all of it is cool. And also you get used to failures.
This is the place.
Yeah. When I fail first time, it sucks. When I do it for 100th time, it's fun. Or maybe I'm masochist right now when I think about it.
Okay, can you elaborate more on the difference from your experience of working in a big company and in a startup?
It's whole another life, whole another level, and different, probably, okay, first of all, different timelines. For me, the biggest shock when I came from academia, maybe not biggest shock, but transition that I needed to do in my mind, from academia to, let's say, startup or industry in general. In academia, again, 1-2 papers a year, and so your timeline, you're doing iterations of 6 months. In startups, it's like 1 or 2 weeks, like the sprints, standard sprint. In big companies, sure, like 2-week sprints, but projects slightly longer, but still, you're not talking about one project a year, it's significantly something shorter. Iteration speed is faster. But yeah, it's like, as an introduction. But if you compare a big company and small startup, the difference is also speed. Let's say you have a big company. Typically, people don't work on some new innovative project there after the company found more product market fit and it's well established. There are exceptions.
You just do some incremental improvements to that product, right?
Yeah, let's say you have some like infrastructure and you have some idea how to make it like around 20% cheaper cloud cost. And it's complex task, it's straightforward task, but you need to do it. Or let's say you need to add, when I worked at Lyft, I worked on the project where you needed to add face recognition for drivers. Because for ride sharing it's a big deal and big problem when one person is licensed to drive for Uber for Lyft, and then he rents his license and car to his cousin, and this cousin is not certified and tested, and it's a question of safety, security, and also
That makes sense.
big
Yes.
insurance costs. So yeah, I worked on these projects. And overall, if you worked on the startup, I would implement end-to-end, including like models on infrastructure and deploying it, this face recognition stuff during the weekend. Yeah. At Lyft, we did MVP, like this early stage. It took us 6 months. The first 4 of them, we were writing documents. The thing is, you see, when it's a big company, you have big risks. It's legal risk. You need to align engineering, and engineering can be front end, as in our case, back end, ML platform, designers, product managers. You need to get approval from these directors and VPs. You need to have extensive documentation for this thing, because if I leave or something will happen, project will it still should keep going.
Yeah.
There's a thing called bus factor. Bus factor is how many employees of the company bus should kill by accident, so that project will stop. And this bus factor should be like basically all of them, so it shouldn't affect it. So yeah, and we were writing documents for 4 months. We were like synchronizing. We were trying to get alignment here and there. And at the end of the day, it worked out and was a value. But when it was deployed, it was used on millions of rides per day. So it takes a long time, but you have a lot of impact at the end of the day. In startups, risks are significantly like smaller. You don't need the alignment. First of all, your teams are small and you're already like more or less aligned. Second, significantly smaller legal risks. You can do stuff and get results and it's fun. But at the same time, impact of the thing that you do in a small startup is of course significantly less than you have, let's say, in a big company. That's why there are trade-offs. So for people that want to have more or less stable job, being paid decent amount of money, I don't know, for like senior software engineer, 400, 500,000 per year before taxes, and taxes are huge. For staff engineers, 600, 700 per year.
That makes it clear how you managed to get so much money for living without salary.
Yes, so you go to this big company, you have these big projects, it goes forever, you work. People typically say that you go for Google to retire. Because no big pressure, no huge firefighting, there are exceptions, but typically you work, after you get used to it, about 20 hours a week. It's the same for all big companies. And then get your money, enjoy your life, raise your kids, barbecue, hikes, snowboarding.
Good life balance.
Good life balance, something that is considered you got good job and you're just enjoying this.
Yeah.
There's no way to get billion or like having huge impact on the world by yourself, but it's kind of like solid path, and many people go this, especially if they have like big family and kids. They don't have any other good option. But if you have an opportunity, you may try to build a startup or join small one or middle one. Although there is some sweet point that many people like to go. Startups before the IPO. They're typically already big, maybe a few thousand people. Let's say when I joined Leap before the IPO, it was 2,000 people. But at the same time, you still have this like vibe about growing fast, like doing things, breaking it, like burning money, which changed drastically after IPO. After IPO, it became extremely lame. But yeah, still, different stages, what people prefer. And typically it is believed more or less, if you think about three clusters, like small startups, pre-IPO startups, and big like well-established companies, people, when they change jobs, and on average in Silicon Valley, people work on the same position for a year and a half, people changing jobs like a lot, people are oscillating within a cluster of its preference. It happens also all the time, but less common for people going from Google to like extremely early stage startup. Happens, but statistically less often.
But you decided to sacrifice all that big money for a challenge.
Probably I don't care about money as much. I remember when I was at school, we were graduating high school, and all my friends went for software engineers because they wanted to get money, and I went for physics because I love science. I care about money? No, I don't care about money, I care about lack of money.
Yeah.
So when I don't have enough money for, let's say,
That's a
coffee or
problem.
breakfast, it's a problem. But if I have it, you don't care as much. There's another thing, if you want to care about money, when you work in a big company, let's say Google, Facebook, YouTuber, your chances to become a billionaire, if you care about money, it should be a lot of money, are zero.
Good point.
Just zero. But if you're joining like any type of the startup or if you're trying to build your own startup, the chances are extremely like minuscule, but
they exist.
But they exist.
I think we got our tea.
Okay, let me grab it.
What are we eating? It looks very healthy.
We're eating breakfast bowl.
Okay, there's a bunch of salad inside, eggs, avocado.
Yeah, nutrition is important, and at least in the morning when we have willpower, we try to stay healthy.
And then chocolate in the evening.
Depends, hopefully not.
Chocolate has caffeine. You are not allowed to eat caffeine.
Good point, that's why I don't eat chocolate.
We'll see if it wasn't too loud in the cafe, if we got anything done in there, but
We'll see.
we'll see. Anyway, wouldn't be the first failure to record a sound.
Yep.
Tell me, what do you think a person needs to be able to do a startup?
Correct answer, I don't know, and even more, no one knows. There are a few ideas within a community, but okay, what about, let me use this metric. So if you go for the early stage startups, VCs, they typically don't invest into your idea or something because you'll do many pivots, they invest into the team.
Yeah.
And so again, it should tell us that if this venture capitalists who are experienced and they kind of like understand the story and they work with many startups, they should know how to choose proper team, meaning proper qualities of these founders, and they don't. Just hard. So I assume, at least my belief right now, that good founder should be, of course, it should be some level of intelligence, some level of skill, although it's hard to measure how much exactly do you need. But the quality that's desired is to be like a bulldozer, just to be able to go forward despite all difficulties, despite all failures, despite things that come along your path and upset you and depress you in something. This is probably the most important, but I assume it's
True. I also
valuable
feel
for
that.
for every successful person.
Yeah. You know what? That was actually, it's a famous quote of Churchill, that success is what is it? Moving from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm.
I would say, yeah, for sure. But if, let's say, you're dumb and unskilled and unlucky,
Then it wouldn't help.
and you go from failure to failure and it never ends and doesn't lead you to success. There is like
That's true.
plenty of like random elements here and
Okay,
there.
then where is that secret border between being dumb and being intelligent?
Who knows? If you got like good startup, you're intelligent. If you don't, you're dumb.
So it's a post-factum evaluation.
But there are like some other secondary factors. There's an opinion, I believe, that to build a successful startup, you need to be young, energetic, and just go forward, being crazy, and just, yeah. The fact that you are young and energetic overcomes like all lack of all other things that you don't have. But at the same time, if you look at, and we have these examples, okay, young Steve Jobs,
Can we walk there a bit?
building Apple, young Elon Musk, young Mark Zuckerberg. Right now, this guy, CEO of Scale AI, that has capitalization of $1 billion, he's like 23 or something. So yeah, we have these examples in front of us. But these examples that we have, it's because they're sharp, there's some drama in them, it's because it's cool to have something in the news. But if you look at the statistics, most of the successful founders of successful startups, they are 35 and older. They
Perfect
work-
age then.
They worked in small startups, they work in big companies, they have networking, they have career capital, they have technical and people and other skills. And this helps them, they understand how the industry works. They may not understand what's the best idea for the startup, but they're strong in all other factors.
Okay. I understood it's important to be in an environment that kind of filled with entrepreneurship, and everything is going somewhere, and your friends are doing something similar. But apart from that, where do you get the support, the knowledge, understanding where to move and how to move?
Good question. Again, I don't know the answer. As you mentioned, being as a part of the ecosystem of similar-minded people, and similar-minded in a good way, it's helpful.
Same crazy.
As you know, like in academia, doing research, you can do research living in the middle of like Siberian tiny village,
Yeah.
but doing this as a part of the university is drastically easier because of the community, because of the energy, because of the exchange of the ideas.
That's true.
Same story here. Despite this, these days again, internet, some hacker news, blog posts, forums, Twitter,
True.
and all the sources, they may provide some ideas, information. Again, I'm a big fan of online classes, and these days of YouTube, plenty of valuable information and YouTube recommendations can give you something good. I'll give you this example. Last week I spent at the Crunch Disrupt, and there
Crunch Disrupt, some kind of conference.
the Crunch Disrupt is the biggest and probably most famous conference for startups. If you watch TV show Silicon Valley, at the end of the first season, it was about this Crunch Disrupt.
True, it was there, yes.
So there you have a bunch of talks of different VPs and some startuppers and some other folks from the scene, and it was like broadcasted into the YouTube. And there's like some booths where startuppers presented and discussed and talked, shared ideas about their products. And I spent the most of the time talking with different startuppers, trying to understand their business, their ideas, their problems, their finding, their story, and also to do some networking. I tried to attend some talks, but I left pretty fast. The reason for this, these talks were okay. They were not bad, and they were kind of typical for like normal conference. But you're so used to go to YouTube and pick not every talk, but best of the best, based on recommendations of your friends, based
Yeah.
on the recommendations from YouTube, that if you can watch some high quality material online, you don't really want to sit and listen to these discussions of like
Yeah.
average quality in person.
Yeah, and not that structured, not that well formulated.
It
That's
depends. No, some of the stocks are amazing that people do, but it's not not each of them. It's rather rare, and you don't want to spend your time. And again, everyone is optimizing their time and energy to
Yeah.
be more efficient.
Yeah.
So you don't want to spend it on something mediocre.
True.
Maybe not mediocre, not as amazing as you would require. They're
Yeah.
great, but still you would prefer something a bit more than this.
Yeah, I believe education now has the same problem in general.
I don't think it's the problem. I think it's an advantage. Because when we
Indeed.
were studying like lecture notes,
Yeah, you can choose your teacher. Now you can go and study at MIT.
at least at a lecture. So yeah, education's another topic that I'm interested in. I spent so much time in academia. Very curious how all these new technologies can boost education. I don't even know how it works. Maybe like Maria can tell us more about it. How did these online classes, YouTube,
Yeah.
Slack,
Yeah.
different communication tools, being
Yeah.
able to have such videos at YouTube, interviews, help with education,
Yeah, in another interview.
of
I will.
course.
Okay, but so it's YouTube, blog posts, internet in general. Where else you get your knowledge? You also mentioned you're reading books.
I read a lot of books.
What does it mean a lot?
I
Showing off.
Showing off, it should be at least 50 books a year.
Oh,
I don't really read them sitting and reading them as in person. Mostly it's audiobooks, and I listen them while driving, in the gym between sets, and sometimes even when I'm cooking in the evening. The reason for this is that books, okay, so theory without practice is stupid, practice without theory is blind. That's why you need to balance both of them. And there's a lot of really good books, and I'm talking about some self-improvement, optimization of your time, being more efficient, how other businesses works, how to be great CEO, blah blah blah. Most of the information in these books you either already know or it's maybe useless to you, but like in every book there is something.
yeah.
And this something helps you to save some time, helps you to get an idea, helps you to optimize something in your flow, something that makes you slightly more excited. And I think it's invaluable to read books. And if you look at people, I don't know, like people like to look at successful CEOs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, they'll read a lot.
That's true. But reading 50 books a year doesn't sound like really saving or optimizing time.
What else can you do while you're driving? You can talk, you can listen to music, you can do podcasts. Podcasts I try to listen, but information density is a bit too low.
Okay.
There's a lot of amazing, great podcasts, like great recommendation system. But I think if I need to choose between 3 hours of good audiobook versus 3 hours of good podcast, I'll go for audiobook.
Okay. What books would you recommend to people who think about entrepreneurship?
People typically ask, and I get this like questions, what top 5 books would you recommend? I don't think it's the healthy approach. I can
It's
give you
very-
such a list, but it's not the way to go. You go to internet, you Google, just Google top 5 books to become an entrepreneur or becoming better
True.
person in academia or like whatever you Google. Then you start from first, you read all 5, and then you look for, and then ask your friends or people who also you discuss this book with, and go from there. And it expands because for every book that I read, I share online my review of this book. I get some feedback. Also recommendations at Audible, where I listen to audiobooks, Kindle and other sources. Also like Goodreads provide you a lot of healthy recommendations. In this sense, question is not what 5 books do you read, but it's about changing your lifestyle, cutting off music completely. In my case, I go to extreme and I cut off all podcasts completely and just replacing it with books. Not every book is great, not every book is amazing, but rather than thinking what like the best book to read,
You just read
just
all
read.
of them.
You just read all of them, yeah.
Oh wow. How do you read books when your brain is tired?
This is a good question. So for me it goes, if in the evening I still cannot work, but my mind is sharp enough that I can listen some business related books. I do this or read them, typically read in the evening. If it doesn't work, I go for some science fiction or some other fiction literature.
How is that useful?
Fiction literature? I mean,
Yeah.
you need to refresh your brain. You need to get some excitement. Also, if you look carefully in science fiction books, maybe you get some amazing idea for your
That's
future
true.
startup.
Yes. That's true. Okay, we got back.